my god, you guys see that intro? So beautiful. So right now you may be looking at your computer screen and saying, hey, who's that dumbass sitting out in the cold talking about a trading card game? Well, that dumbass would be me. How you doing, beauties? My name's Nyhmnim, and I'm a YouTuber that does discussion videos such as the one you're gonna see today. Allow me to give a huge thank you to GalacticGod for allowing me to participate in his subscriber showcase today. It's a huge opportunity, and I'm always thankful. Thanks, GalacticGod. So what we gonna talk about today? Today I'm gonna spark up a little debate that not a lot of people discuss, but I do think it's actually a pretty good thing to talk about. In Yu-Gi-Oh! There's two main types of card advantage. There's hand advantage, and there's field advantage. Today we're going to discuss exactly which one has more pros than cons. But before we get into that, let's discuss card advantage in general. Card advantage is literally everything in Yu-Gi-Oh! Every aspect of the game revolves around card advantage. You're either obtaining card advantage, you're either maintaining card advantage, or you're diminishing your opponent's card advantage. It doesn't matter the type of advantage, your game is revolving around it. Normally the current stance of card advantage can predict the outcome of the game. For example, if I have a plus 10 over my opponent, it's more likely I'm going to win that duel than my opponent. So it's no surprise that most decks topping are the ones that can fulfill those three categories I've already talked about before. In case you didn't catch it the first time, obtaining card advantage, maintaining card advantage, and diminishing your opponents. If your deck can successfully do those three and do it efficiently, well then your deck's tier 1. If your deck can give you a huge amount of hand advantage, but it amounts to nothing, what's the point? Now's a good point to transition onto the two main types of card advantage in the game. Hand and field advantage. Now people might be asking, oh, which one's more important? Which one's just the one that you need more? In my opinion, there's not necessarily one. Let's look at it at the theory that all hand advantage will eventually become field advantage. No matter what span of time, that hand advantage is normally going to eventually become field advantage. Now most of the time, speed of decks is considered by how fast that hand advantage can turn into field advantage. If your deck can turn one, poop out your whole hand into an unbreakable field, well, your deck has a lot of speed. However, as we see now, fast decks aren't always the best decks. A lot of decks also slow roll their game so they can maintain a hand advantage and have a constant stream of the eventual field advantage. Let's take a look at two examples I like to use. So let's look at Hieratic Rulers. Hieratic Rulers, I believe we can all agree, is an extremely quick deck. More than likely, the Hieratic player is going to go off and throw their whole hand on the field and say, get around it. Now let's discuss why this huge amount of field advantage in a very short time is good and bad. So it's good in the sense that if your opponent does not have a response to the mass amount of field advantage you are producing, then you have essentially won the duel. If I throw up my OTK on the board and my opponent does not have a way to stop that OTK, they can have all the fucking hand advantage in the world. If I can OTK them and reduce their life points to 0 before they have a way to stop me, I've won the duel. However, goes without saying, if my opponent does have a response to that mass amount of field advantage, recovery is going to be a bitch for me. Because this is more than likely, I threw out my mass amount of hand advantage, and I didn't maintain a successful hand advantage to recover from the fact if I got that low blow. Now my opponent, who most likely has the card advantage on me, will more than likely overpower me in the next few turns. Hieratic Rulers is a perfect example of a deck that just throws all their shit at you and hopes for the best. Now the reason we see them doing good is because they do have a way to maintain a successful field advantage. They're able to occasionally synchro into the occasional Stardust, and the Dragon Wars are all +1s to the field advantage when you banish 2 from grave to special summon them. They more than likely have an infinite flow of level 7s to just hit the board at any point. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, let's look at a deck like Spellbooks. Now Spellbooks is also agreeably a slower deck. The deck more than likely focuses on keeping a blue boy on the field and burning your opponent's field advantage with Fate. If my opponent's playing Hieratic Rulers and they decide to Xyz and I Fate whatever they bring out, I have essentially +1 over them. They wasted 2 resources to make an XYZ, I wasted 1 to get rid of it. Now normally Spellbooks slowly amount those pluses until they can get the card advantage over their opponent. Does that make Spellbooks bad? No. They just have a different way of winning the duel through card advantage. It also helps that the fact that the Spellbook deck has a constant stream of hand advantage with the +1 from Tower every standby phase. This keeps them at a sort of quicker tempo to be able to get to their good cards to hopefully diminish their opponent's field advantage a little bit quicker. So which deck is better? A quicker deck that just expends their hand into field advantage immediately in hopes of winning? Or a deck that slowly maintains their hand and field advantage at a comfortable level to be able to outdo your opponent? Neither. Actually, more than likely, it's both. Let's look at a deck that's doing extremely good that pretty much has its name based after pluses. The +1 Fire Fist deck. What this deck revolves around is it excels at diminishing your opponent's card advantage while maintaining and obtaining your card advantage. It succeeds immensely in those 3 categories I just said. Bear does the job of popping Xyz and stuff to get that +1 over your opponent. Card D solves the hand advantage problem of leaving you a +1 whenever you tribute it to draw 2. And of course, the immense amount of back row they can run solves the problem of maintaining the card advantage they put out. Also, another good point to make in solving the debate between hand and field advantage and what's more important, I always like to use examples like the Maxi Challenge for hand advantage. If my opponent wants to take the Maxi Challenge, I can draw all the hand advantage I want to. It's not going to matter if that field advantage is going to be able to push through and just punch me in the face for game. I can draw all the powerhouse spells and traps I want to. It's not going to matter if they can OTK me that turn. And on the terms of field advantage, I like to use examples like Dark Hole, Mirror Force, and Torrential Tribute. Sure, you can expend all your resources you want into a field that can OTK my ass, but if I have that one response to stop it, you most likely don't have hand advantage to follow up that play you just made. And this is where we conclude that there needs to be balance. Now, if your deck does have the balance we're looking for, then your deck's most likely really good. So to conclude, good decks normally have efficient ways to maintain, obtain, and diminish your opponent's card advantage. So again, allow me to thank GalacticGod for allowing me to post on his channel today. It's a huge opportunity, and as I already said, I'm thankful. If you guys like my content, feel free to check it out below. I'm sure GalacticGod will be so gracious to link it below. Thanks for watching, guys. Nyhmnim out.